go. Hi again, everybody. We are back with this week's Realm review, or I forget what I called the series. We're looking at Nick Element's Beach Realm here, and we are going to go through and give some constructive criticism. So, like I did last time, we're just going to do a play of the map, and then I'm just going to comment on it as we go. Let's put this in the start zone and then test from there. Okay, we got a Accelodrome here. This is just borrowed from, I want to say this is Alex Chosen's. Yeah, this is Alex's Accelodrome. So no real complaints here. It's fairly well put together. Only complaints I could have would just be kind of, I guess, aesthetic ones, like design choices when it comes to like, oh, I wouldn't have used a rock object there, or oh, I would have made these textures different. So small things, and it serves its purpose. Really, I feel like the Accelodrome shouldn't matter that much. Okay, right off the bat, the track texture is reversed right here, and there's some hard lines with the water. It's just kind of a blue line right there. And it looks like we're racing submerged, but there aren't any submerged sound effects. No gravity changing. Oh, no, there is a tube. There is a tube. That tube needs to be more visible.
I don't think it needs to be more visible. I think it's just a spline cylinder, which means you can see it from the outside, but not the inside.
You can't really see it that well from the outside.
But it's definitely more visible from the outside than the inside. You could probably
more
check.
More visible, definitely.
Well, I guess we'll find out once you're done playing it.
Yeah, we will find out. And also, the player can easily exit the spline, but I mean, the same could be said about the speed of silence. And there's just a lamp right there, which okay, lamp, that's fine. Let's see.
When it comes to being able to easily fall out, you can always turn on collision. The only catch of that is when it comes to splits in a track, you can fall out.
This
most
does
people
have
make
collision on it. So this is a spline tube, meaning that we are inside an object right now. Sorry, this isn't a tube. This is just a cylinder, meaning that once we go through it, we can't get back in. So collisions are on, just not from the inside.
Best way to describe it, it's like a spline tube is a one-way, or no, it's just a two-way plane, which means it's what's called collision on both sides, and this is a one-way plane where one side is like an actual object, the other side is just invisible.
Yes, except in this case because the object is. The object actually is invisible. Like 100%. Okay, and I can see the square for the bottom right there. So that's a little bit of immersion breaking.
Hello, how much have I missed?
Not very much. I think we're about 3 minutes into the video.
Yeah, we're not that far.
Okay, good timing. We're
excellent.
Well, I made sure to ping him when we started, just so he knew.
Yes. Yeah, if not for the ping, I wouldn't have noticed.
I probably shouldn't be as shy about that.
Yeah, if you are about to start, just like send me a ping a few minutes in advance, and I'll try to make it.
I was close enough. It was 3 minutes after, or I think it was 2 minutes after we started, so yeah, close enough.
Okay, I would also raise these boosters up a little bit so the entire vortex is visible above the track. Also smooth this track out a little bit.
I'm guessing we're looking at a water realm of sorts?
No, this is actually a beach realm, so it's got an underwater section.
Okay.
And it goes up on some sands. So far, a lot of like basic textures, not a lot of shading, not a lot of actual like texture work. Most of the decorations seem to more just like be placeholders to communicate just kind of the theoretical message of this is a beach. Or like you are underwater here, but there's a lot of hard lines in the background, so it's easy to be like, okay, there's square objects here, so clearly I feel like we should get rid of those or fade them into the background because it really makes it hard
Yeah.
to sell the idea of this underwater ambiance. I feel like we could probably use more track boosters because there's parts of the track that feel like really, really fast, and then other parts where you just kind of feel like you're struggling to go up a hill. Like it reminds me of when I'm, oh yeah, that's nice. That burst of speed right there, very nice. Reminds me a lot of like when I'm in my car and I'm like on the freeway, so the speed limit's like 80 plus, but it's like up a steep hill, so I'm struggling to push like 50. That's kind of the feeling I get on some sections of this map.
You can also, instead of using just a force zone box as a booster, you can use a grab trigger, which can help out a lot with maintaining a fast speed instead of just getting a boost.
Yeah, because the friction doesn't take away those speed bonuses as quick.
Yep.
Number one, using a grab trigger, if you set the drag too low, you can lose control very easily, and it becomes very annoying to use.
Yeah, I think maybe we could just boost the gravity just a little bit. Just enough, or boost. Or
Yeah, if you just get a grab trigger instead of like drag speed 0.5, it'll make it so you just go twice as fast, which
Yeah, I
you
feel
won't
like
have any real.
That's probably a good compromise.
You won't have any control issues, but you'll still go fast enough where it's not annoying to drive through.
Yeah, and
Also, it's not like there's any super sharp turns to worry about on this one. So.
yeah. It's also hard to tell when you're in and out of the water, and that blue is super one note. It's just one flat color, which just frankly doesn't sell water very much. This gives off more of a desert vibe. Like, I mean,
I was gonna say that, and also, it might just. I think it's just a texture issue, but the sand is incredibly bright for nighttime.
that too, yeah. The sand is bright, and it's also suffers from a similar issue where it's just very plain.
I don't think it has enough bump strength on it. That's probably the reason.
There's also very little lighting here, just ambient lighting, I think.
Yeah.
You can also, some emit textures, you can just put on a very faint emit, so like when you're not close enough to see the depth or the bump strength.
And that wall
You can
right there,
see a
that big rock, I would put that in the background, and I would also lower the texture resolution because it looks like plaid from this distance.
We got against Plaid, huh?
My quarrel with plaid is that it does not make for natural looking rocks.
That's fair.
That and also world mapped. If you have that on, it can make it very unrealistic rock.
Well, world map, all it does is make the textures consistent.
Well, I mean, like most people when they put on world map, they don't think to change the texture scale down, so you just have a bunch of repeating textures.
Sure, yeah. I mean, that's part of it. World map does usually, sometimes, it can sometimes make the texture smaller, but it doesn't all the time, actually.
It's mainly only useful when you're trying to have two objects close together, but you don't want the textures to start glitching out because they're overlapping.
Yeah, that's basically the main use for it. Okay, and this, I don't think it's communicated quite properly that this is where the player is supposed to go, because it just shoots you out and relies on the player to correct on the fly.
You could probably turn on fly and then have, like, instead of boost pads, boost rings, which a lot of the non-realm maps have. I don't think almost any realm map has.
Yes, definitely. And there's a lot of kind of loops that just go around in place here. There's just a lot of distance, a lot of the track where you're just kind of waiting for the next thing to happen. A lot of like in between. It's like a commute, not necessarily a track. You're driving just to get to the end. There's not really much going on in places like this. Just tube, more tube. And I'd say this has gone on for about 30 seconds longer than it should already. I'm gonna make this much.
I think
much
the
shorter.
person who made this took the phrase that the realms are open an hour long a little too seriously.
Yeah, I feel like map creators, like they look at the map and they're just like, what? This is only like 10 minutes long. I can do better than that. And then this is the result. They're just like, okay,
Longer
this
does not
section
mean
just
better.
skip that. That's what she said. Anyway,
I know. I hate the fact that I said it, but I.
But it really doesn't matter like how long the map is. It's really as long as you enjoy it, and that also does not sound good.
Yeah, as long as it's the time it
Um,
takes to complete the map should correlate directly to how long it is fun. And this, there's like a good 2 or 3 minutes of just driving in tubes, and there's not enough going on to justify that. I mean, there's
Yeah,
some maps that are long, like Distance Galaxy, but every like most of the time you're driving, with very few exceptions, it's just challenge after challenge after challenge, and the only time there's straight road is when it like gives you a chance to kind of calm down after, you know, doing a difficult transfer or getting past a difficult section with a lot of obstacles. But this is just way too much. I think I'm going to cut out pretty much this entire section.
Wonderful.
Yes.
I don't know. My one piece of advice for this type of thing is use your long straight sections without much gameplay to sell a visual, and for the rest of the track you should be experiencing something new every few seconds.
That's good. That's good.
Because as long as you're doing new things, even if it's like a slightly adjusted thing you just did, that's still your brain having to like think about how do I respond to this?
Yeah,
how
basically
do I do
that's
this?
that's the whole like is it engaging or is it not? And right now this is like okay, lumps of sand there.
Yeah.
Lump of sand
Also,
there.
another thing you can do is it's a little more advanced to do, but if you make a tube and then you put a warp anchor in it and set it up right, it has to be you have to set it up quite right, where you can make it so you transfer to another area, but it's seamless, so you don't look like you're teleporting to a new area.
Yeah, no. If the trouble
So
is
instead of
that
having
the
to
new area
go over
is,
to a
is
far
too
area.
far away, you can like cut time out of levels
That happens
without it
in
looking
Ice
like
Realm
you're cutting
Monument.
time.
There's
Yeah.
plenty of realms where that happens.
Oh yeah. No, it's a really neat trick. Okay, and this little pond I think is the last section of the track. Wow, that was altogether too much tube.
Yeah, that tube could have been like 10 seconds.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably the maximum. Also, no effects or grab triggers when you go under the water for a little bit there, and that should change. And this water is much too placid. It is
very
it's
flat and-
glass.
Yeah.
It is glass, unmoving. And also, some of these tracks are a little bit too jagged. I want to smooth them out. And
That and those
those
plants,
lines.
the default like distance plants, you can use them or, like if you really take the time and implement them slightly in. But it's always better to make your own plants because you can really sell the visuals.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, you can't assume that everybody like knows off the bat how to make particle plants, so these act as a decent placeholder.
You don't have to make particle plants. It doesn't necessarily have to be particles.
Fair, but particles are usually the cheapest
Usually-
way to do it
I
without.
mean, these
It
are
really-
particles right here. They're very much like the only object part is the stem. I don't think there's
No,
collision on
that-
any of the leaves.
That's a actual object.
The leaves?
Yeah,
Well, they
there's
are
a vine
two-dimensional.
object. Yeah, there's a spline that lets you just create vines.
Yeah, these are also much larger than I would make them. In the library, they're I think meant more as a small decoration for, like you said, the caps of vines.
Yeah, pretty much.
So them being wow, okay, yeah, that's a very stark. That's a very stark jump right there. That was an
Oh, then we're going for a sandcastle. Okay.
A
lightning
sandcastle, but I would say
out of nowhere.
it depends. If you're going for like a realistic sandcastle, it's much better to make it like not or asymmetrical. So it's like because it's really hard to make a sandcastle that's symmetrical. So it's more accurate to make like some sides have a little bit more on it, and also make it more of a rock texture instead of a flat texture.
I'm not altogether opposed to the way that this is constructed. I mean, this isn't awful, but the pop-up blockers, when like it ignores.
I
how
think
much-
you missed your turn.
Did I?
Yeah, you're going backwards now.
Were you supposed to make? Okay, yeah.
I think you're supposed to make the turn there, and there's
That
not a
isn't
lot of
very
indication
clearly
that you
indicated.
should.
Yes, we should add like an arrow, or maybe just like redo the fork so that it doesn't. It's not a T junction.
Yeah, use the Y junction instead.
Okay. All right, that's that.
Okay.
Track is over. Okay, first thing,
You did it.
I'm gonna.
Another thing I
reverse some
noticed
track.
about that end area is I don't know if it was just a texture, but the fog looked really bad there and made all the textures look terrible.
Yes. So, first area is the underwater area here. You come out at the top of the sea here. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of all these kill grids. Or at least making them visible.
Yeah, just make them not visible in editor.
Lovely. Okay, so the start, I don't really have a problem with it. What I do have a problem with is this. This is the wrong way around. So the way I'm going to fix that is by rebinding. And this is how you can do it. You just take each spline and you separate, and I'm only going to do like a few for an example so we can move on to other parts.
I believe there was a... I forget what the shortcut for it is, but I think there's a way to just flip the track section.
There is. Unfortunately, it only works if only one end of the track is attached. So flip track segment, that's what that does.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Okay, so for this, I'm going to just move this over here. Yeah, and then I'm going to move on. Obviously, just fix the rest of the track, but...
does it use the default distance checkpoints for most of the level?
It does, for all of it,
Okay.
I think.
A decent substitute for that would just be like a ring of bubbles.
Ring of bubbles. Lovely. So let's go ahead and replace this with our custom checkpoint right here. Our checkpoint. Checkpoint. No visual. You get that aligned, and then why don't we nix the rotation?
Just because you forget to keep on saying some of the keybinds, Shift S is how you move an object to your cursor.
Yes, I mean this most of what happens here you could do slower just using the gizmos.
Yep.
Just to speed up workflow for the sake of ease of demonstration. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and rotate this 90 degrees on the x-axis, and then I'm going to go ahead and just make this a little bit smaller.
And then as far as the particle system goes, you can just...
Let's go ahead and
there
change
should be
the
a-
image index to the bubble, which is this.
Yep. And then you can change the inner radius. Bring it to like 64, I think, and that should put it on just the edge of the track.
Lovely. Now we've got a nice
The
a nice
way I
little
would
bubble
do this, I would not set it up like that. You're going to run into some issues real quick. Yeah, just ungroup it real quick. So with the checkpoint no visual, just center it on the center point of the Dreamwave.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so just bring it right up there with it. And then in the box trigger for it, where it has the center values, just set the middle one to 0, and that should center it perfectly again.
For the box trigger?
Yeah. There you go.
Nice. I didn't know
Now you
could
won't end up
customize
with...
that.
you can also just change the bounds of the box and stuff there, too.
Okay. So let's go ahead and group that. Bubble, checkpoint. Very straightforward. And then next thing I'm going to work on is this texture here. Irregular plane. Oh boy.
I think it's using... Is it just using the default water texture without the reflective?
No, I don't think it's even using that.
Okay.
So this is, yep, okay, maybe it
That's
is.
the problem. I think one of the two main problems is disable the fuse is on, and also the bump strength is really low, and then deflections aren't on.
Okay, so let's turn on bump for start.
No, that's you disabled it.
Oh, whoops.
You want to turn off disable the fuse because it'll make it nowhere near as bright.
Okay, and then That's
disable
what-
reflect, get a reflect on there.
Let's turn this down to 0.5 here.
Yeah, but I would get a reflect on there just because it's going to make it look way better.
Yeah.
Do I have to disable? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you do. And then the color right now is set to nothing because the right side's dragged down.
Okay, so
Or
let's go
reflect.
ahead and get this. Just kind of. I feel like
The
it's
reflect.
too blue.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's turn the reflect color.
Oh, that's kind of bright.
Reflect color is set to something here, and let's do 0.1 actually.
Yeah.
That's much better.
And that already feels very watery.
Also, those textures, they're not bad, but one thing I might experiment with, I don't remember the number of them. I think if you pull it up, I can probably figure out which one it is.
The textures.
Yeah.
Alright, next thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to group these so that it's easier to change the textures in the future.
Yeah, if you pull up the textures, I might be able to figure out which one
Let me
I
just
remember
make
is.
sure that I'm grabbing all of them here. Copy properties. Let's just paste that. Paste.
And also, I guess before we do textures, there's a little trick I learned that you can do to make water look really nice, and that is what you do is you make it so the top layer has an additive transparency on, and then you make a second layer that's a tad bit lower, and you disable the transparency on that. Also, I can't English for some reason, so if you duplicate the layer again,
These are all planes, so what we get here is very.
The problem with adding all these planes is that they would stack each other's brightnesses, so you get different brightnesses in
yeah, but
different
you
areas.
can. I guess yeah, that. Well, I think that's just a problem with how the planes are placed. So I guess, but
Well, I mean,
that strat I said can be
Got,
used if it's placed right.
Water surface right here, which everything right now on the water surface is. Let's go ahead. View fog. All right, that's another problem right here.
Yeah.
Biodome.
Oh, one thing you can do, that layer of water, just duplicate it and move it down very slightly,
Okay.
and then on the one that's below, just give it an emissive. Just like a little bit of brightness there.
Like right here.
Yeah, and then with the then with some color adjustment and stuff, we can make it look like light is coming through the top.
Let's go ahead and do 0.02, 0.2. So it's right in the center there.
One thing you could do is I wouldn't recommend doing this for this map because it's set on like a nighttime type of aesthetic. But with the daytime, you can use certain particles to make a sun shaft type look, where
Yep.
just shafts of the water or the sun are coming in from the water, not just pure sun.
That could work for Moon, but this is simple and it fixes up a lot of the issues.
But I'd recommend there's a different texture you can use for the top layer that I think, in my personal opinion, I think it looks a little bit nicer, but if you don't want to check it out, that's alright.
So Tube GS, what is this? Line cylinder. HD. Where is this? Okay, this entire thing, I'm actually just going to put in a locked layer
That is a good move.
so I don't just quarantine this thing. L, put it in the locked layer.
I didn't realize that was a shortcut.
Yep. And then bam. Now it doesn't show up in the level list anymore. Cylinder
Nice.
HD. What do we got here? Alright, so this is it. This is everything. And it's all got this. Nope, not all of it. Okay. I'm going to group these together as jellyfish, but the first thing I'm going to do is cap the splines.
Always.
Remember to cap your splines.
Remember to cap your splines, kids. Copy properties, paste properties.
One thing you can
It's
do
not
to give it a
perfect,
little bit
but
more
it's much
a different look is if you
nicer.
copy the location of that one and then put a hemisphere GS there. That might look a little bit better.
Yeah,
you
that
know
would
what
give
I'm
it a rounded bottom.
It certainly would. It certainly would. But For what this jellyfish is.
This works pretty well.
Yep.
You grab the top. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
You grab the top stuff up there.
Group it. Oh, whoops.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah. Last time I checked, a track isn't part of jellyfish.
Yeah,
Sure
what
it
kind of
is.
jellyfish you're thinking of?
If it tries hard enough, it can be.
Yeah, but it can't keep track of what it is. Okay, so I'm gonna
Yes.
copy
Very
this.
good joke.
I'm gonna copy this, and then I'm gonna go ahead and paste it over this. And I'm gonna just get rid of this here, just because it is easier and faster.
Yeah.
And get this here. Paste. Jellyfish, jellyfish. Jellyfish. This one is grouped for some reason, but not
Okay.
as a jellyfish.
And that one's capped, or splines aren't capped.
It's the bad jellyfish.
Yeah, there's another one.
Also,
Okay, right
I don't
here-
remember how hard it is, but I know if you try hard enough with particles, you can make a little school of fish. I mean, it's not going to look good, but from a distance, it would look somewhat convincing.
There's actually a fish flock object that just has fish.
Yep.
I have never gotten it to work, but it exists.
Fish flock. I think we got a merp, merp, merp.
If you want to be really interesting, you could, as an
Wait,
Easter egg, sneak in a
wait.
water-round fish.
Maybe we could try attaching it to a track spline.
I have no idea how this object works, so sure.
Track. Oop, not that. Cape. Move this over here. And take this, put it into rate utility, and then let's test it, like right here. And then let's grab the car. Let's see if that does anything. Nope, car is in the locked layer. Just gonna move that to default. No fish.
I also feel like that fog isn't very strong for how deep underwater that's supposed to be.
Definitely.
You can also, it's kind of annoying to set up with the fog height is relative feature, where you can make it so the fog is stronger at a lower area.
Not that annoying, actually. I'm gonna show you.
Well, it's different for every person. I mean, I'm fine of spending plenty of time working on like fixing minuscule things in my map,
Oh, it's easy.
But
there.
some of the-
Look at this. Toggle fog.
but some of the stuff like that,
Fog
my
height is
brain does
relative,
not comprehend.
Fog distance. So fog bottom and fog top are the main things.
Yep. And
You
then
just click and drag.
the fog penumbras are just how far away, essentially how far it takes for the fog to fade from
Yep.
existing to not existing.
Yep. But most of the time, you don't need to mess with it.
Yep.
So usually, what I
If you
like
really
to do
want to get complicated,
is
you could, or what's called, have two biodomes and have one with a really low fog layer to kind of cover up the bottom, and then have one that just general fog.
I like to
Yeah,
set the
I would-
bottom higher, so that the bottom is like right where this is here.
Okay, right where the ground is.
Yep. There we go. Fog bottom 0. I feel like that's about 0. And then I'm gonna set the fog top to right here. And then it just
I
gets
would
foggier and foggier and foggier. Very slowly though. So I'm
I
gonna
would
set
even consider dropping the fog density to like 0.5 or 0.7.
yeah.
And that'll
Try
just
0.7. And then let's turn the fog brightness down to, let's do 0.25 right here, because I feel like that's much darker.
yeah.
Gives it more of an undersea feel.
You can also use just a general cloud particles if you make it large enough. Not like incredibly large, but at the manual fog, where because it's like a particle and it's not just fog.
That's a
It's gonna be,
definite option. That's a definite option.
the thing is about that one is it's not like gonna be a perfectly circle like fog like that one is. It's gonna be slightly like that natural look where fog might be stronger in this area compared to others.
Yeah. I mean, an additional thing to just make the fog feel more natural is kind of mix it with the Skyfar values.
Definitely, yeah. There's a video on that, I think.
Yeah.
As far as this goes, the color, I'm gonna turn that up. I want this to actually be a light in the darkness. So why don't we?
Yeah. It just needs more range, really.
Yeah. Let me just turn up the range here to, let's do
That, and also the ground is very flat, and last time I checked, ocean floors are not that flat. So you could probably just mix in a few rocks there to make it a little more bumpy.
even better. Here's a nice trick. Let's copy the properties here. Here's a nice trick when it comes to creating uneven surfaces without spending a lot of time messing with placing individual objects. Let's go ahead and go into Simples, Splines HD, and then let's find, why don't we get a quad? A quad, spline. Paste the property here, right? And then we take this spline and we scale it up. And let's go
That's a
ahead
bit
and
too up.
rotate it right here. Actually, let's just turn this into a spline. So I'm going to go ahead and H, shapes, tape. Let's turn it into some tape here. And then we just scale it up a little bit. And then what we can do with this new spline here is we can twist it and then bisect it.
Another thing you can do is you can get some of the Rock 2 GSs and make them somewhat flat. Like, not incredibly flat, but like flatter. And then you just turn one 180 so it makes kind of like a square. And you can scale that up a decent amount. That's what I usually do.
Definitely.
Because while that it's slightly offset, it's still flat.
True,
That's
yeah.
the problem.
I mean, it's not super bumpy, but as far as bottoms go,
Yeah. I'll just,
turn.
yeah, if you go
Wait,
simples.
scales. Scales.
That
solve
could work.
everything.
Oh, well, I guess it might. You never know.
So we group this. Let's turn it, and then let's. Yep.
I don't think splines behave well like that.
I don't think.
Yeah, I'm
I
pretty
don't
sure
think they
if you-
stick when you.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure if you were to test it, it would just go back to being the normal size.
0.67. All right. Well, in that case, here's what we do. Let's get a few of them.
I was gonna say, Omega, can I test out my idea? You get just the Rock 2 GS, and you just get two of them, and the other one turn it 180. If you want to do that. So you gotta place it, and you gotta shrink it down a little bit
Properties
from
here.
the Y value, just so it's a little bit more on the flat side. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Let's go ahead and 0.1.
It's not-
Oop.
Not like 0.1, I'll say like, that could work. But then yeah, you,
Right here.
what's it called, duplicate it and turn it 180.
Let's go ahead and turn off center points so we can see what's actually happening here.
So yeah, I would rotate it 180. Did you see what I do?
And then duplicate that.
And while it's not incredibly bumpy, it gives it just that slight better look.
Yeah, definitely. It seems a lot more uneven now. So if
Yeah,
we go
I
ahead
mean,
and
it all-
turn on fog, it definitely seems more of like an actual ocean floor. The second thing I'm going to do here is
Yeah,
put
from like those
biodome.
scales, that scales though, I feel like just a little bit too sharp for my opinion.
It's far enough away that it's not, awful.
It's passable.
All right, so
If you were to
next
show that to a regular player, they wouldn't.
I'm going to
have
do
a
here is
complaint
I'm
about
going to mess with the ambient lighting. A lot of people misunderstand what the ambient lighting is. Ambient lighting is just light that's applied to all objects, regardless of where they are. So I'm going to go ahead and give a soft gray. Let's do 0.3 here, and then a softer, let's do 0.1, and then nothing here. And you can see already, gives things a little bit more of a natural feeling, a natural hue. And then as far as skybox color, I'm going to make this less of a severe blue, like kind of a little brighter at the top, and then here as this goes down, I'm going to make it the same shade, just darker. And I'm going to go ahead and so this bottom color is like 100% black, which I agree with here. And I'm gonna make this the same as the fog color, so it seems a lot darker. And
you also might want to mess with the sky far of the fog and just the general sky far to make it
definitely.
blend a little
Let's
bit
go
nicer.
ahead and turn up the sky fade distance too.
Yep.
So that way
Usually that
things
should be about a
fade.
third of your sky far, so like 500 is
Yeah, 500
good.
right there. So
Yep.
everything seems to fade a lot more nicely in and out. And then enable fog. Fog height is relative. Let's go ahead and bring the density back to 1 here. But let's go ahead and make this a little bit brighter.
Yeah.
So that
And,
it fades in
match-
more.
You want to match the fog far with the sky far. So
Fog
fog
far? Okay, so
Yeah, that should
fog
probably be
far
around, like-
is... Let's do 1500 here.
yeah. And that
then
makes it so that fog gets to its maximum intensity just as things get pulled from the map.
Perfect. So much nicer ambiance here. Much like kind of... Things still feel a little bit too clear though. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and use the fog still, but I'm going to go ahead and turn the sky fade distance up to about 2/3 of the
Okay.
sky far. That way the atmosphere seems a lot more dense, and
Yeah.
it gives that feeling of being underwater. If you turn it up to match, then it actually seems a lot more dense, because things start fading the further away you get from them, and they just get clearer, and it gives that feeling of murky water. I think that's where I'm going to keep it for underwater right here.
Would give it a distance of like a few, like even 15 or 20.
The
It's,
sky fade distance?
Yeah, like just a little bit less than what it is now, just so that the area directly around the car isn't as foggy, since you're inside of tubes most of the time.
That does make sense. You don't want the inside of your tubes to feel like you're submerged as well.
Yeah.
Okay, next, speaking of tubes, spline cylinder HD. Let's see, what do we got here? What's this part of the track? I'm gonna go ahead and move this over to the tubes layer, because it's not in there currently. And these are all the tubes. All right, first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and actually change it to tubes in the shapes here.
Also, one thing you can do when you're done with that is the water itself on top, add a animator or golden animator to it, so the water actually moves.
Definitely, since it's all one thing, would make sense. Let's go ahead and put a golden animator on here, and then let's test that.
It's on the y-axis, so it's not going to go
Rip.
anywhere.
And then let's go ahead and duration
I would set to like
by a factor.
45.
Let's
Yeah, that
actually
works.
let's change this from rotate to scale, or translate to scale.
That would set it closer to like 45 or 50, just because that gives it
Let's
a little
do
bit slower. 'Cause that's still moving pretty fast.
let's do 150.
That works.
And it's all moving in one direction, which I don't particularly... Here's another thing. The biodome does not cut off at exactly where the water starts. And that is a no-no.
Also, another thing is that that tube where you enter, it's not capped.
Yep. I'm going to just move this up just slightly. Oop. That's not
Maybe
right.
too far down. Yeah, right about there looks good though. Because then it should fade to the blue just as you enter the water.
Perfect. Alright, and then spline. Let's cap this. I want this to be the same material as everything else here, so that looks much nicer and there's no hidden anything. Alright, let's get let's work on the texture before we do anything else here.
Yeah,
Spline
I
two.
was thinking it would be a good idea to enable the diffuse, and also give it multiplicative transparency, and then just increase the base color a little bit.
Just multiplicative?
Both that and additive.
Okay. And then
And then you
base color?
raise the base color a little bit, just to the point where it almost makes things brighter outside of it. It's a little darker than it is right now. Yeah, right about there.
There we go. Alright, and then let's go ahead and change this texture here to what the game uses for water, which I think... Nope, that's not it. This one. 46. And then let's go ahead and disable... here... nope, let's not do that. Let's actually...
Yeah, I would actually
bump
disable
up.
the diffuse.
Bump strength is really useful. The only time I would really disable bump strength is mainly when you're just wanting for like a metallic look.
Yeah, but I mean, even then, it's useful if you want like rough metal.
Let's go ahead and give this an
Yeah, I
knit,
guess that's a good
because I
point.
feel like it doesn't look quite like a... quite as nice as it could be. Like, it doesn't really look futuristic. I feel like that's part of what was the goal here. Was to make it look like you're actually being contained in something without obscuring the player's view of the environment too much.
Yeah. Let's see, there's also a really neat trick you can do to make it look like there's I don't know what they're called, but the patterns you see on like the bottom of a pool, you can kind of apply that effect to the tube by essentially just doubling up on the tube and making things animate in opposite directions.
Let's try that.
Also, the thing
Let's
when it
do-
comes to that water texture, I was talking earlier about how you can add another layer that has transparency and then place it slightly above. I actually pulled up my leg 4 where I used that. If you want, I can pull up the stream real quick so you can just see what I'm talking about for how it works. Or if you want to put it on there. Because I think it comes out a lot nicer for water texture.
Let's test out this golden animator thing real quick.
Yeah. You're gonna have to use a slightly different emissive texture, one that's a bit more spaced, I guess.
Let's just go ahead and mess with the texture scale. Let's do 2.1.
And I would disable the diffuse and just bring the color back down so it's not blinding.
I don't know if
Yeah,
disabling
mine's-
the diffuse is the best idea here.
No, trust me, just turn the brightness down after you do.
For color?
Yeah. Because that way we can start getting rid of those like weird
Yeah,
speckles
Pine, if
that
you
are
want,
mixed
I
in.
pulled up the stream to show talking about putting another layer on top that has a transparency.
Alright, and then let's copy this. The
I
golden
think it's-
animator.
I think it makes the water look a lot nicer, in my opinion.
Alright, let's test all animations. And then we've got to
So-
translate vector
Oh,
negative 1. And
the
let's
other
go ahead and
thing-
set the duration to 50.
You're gonna want to world map these.
I think they already are. Nope, they're not. Here we go.
Yeah. Once you world map them, you can even make it so that the actually that already looks pretty good.
I would personally turn up the reflect a little because it still looks a little bit clear.
Let's turn
Yeah.
up the reflect on the first group. We don't want to. We don't want there to be too much noise, preventing you,
Yeah.
preventing the player from seeing what's going on outside the tubes.
Then I would say you could also turn up the bump shrink, might look good, with having a higher reflex.
No, I think what we need to do is turn the scale down. Let's do the texture scale of 0.5.
That, or actually, if you wanted to, actually, that might, you could probably turn the bump shrink down just to give it a more sleek look.
Yeah, true.
I think let's do 0.6 here.
Maybe like a 2 or a 1 for the bump shrink might look a little bit better compared to that 5.
And let's go ahead and set a translate vector 1 here as well. 1, 1, 1, negative 1, negative 1, negative 1. Alright, is this world mapped? Now it is. Is this world mapped? Now it is. Now it's moving exactly opposite.
Yep.
That does look very nice. Nice water tube. Okay, so we've got that. Let's go ahead and I'd say we've mostly got all the issues worked out in this underwater section. Obviously, we want to be replacing all of these other checkpoints with the bubble checkpoints, but for the sake of being quick, I'm not going to do that. I don't have a problem with this, but we do want to...
It would be nice to be able to see through it at least
Yep.
a little bit.
Right there, right there. Perfect.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I'm going to do is water audio zone right here. So while in this zone, the player is underwater, like sounds are muted.
Yep.
And so this is good to sell the effect of there being water. And another trick, neat trick that I've learned for water right here is to get some splash particles. And you can do that by pasting a cloud and then just changing this to these particles, changing the draw mode to solid. And actually you want something like this. Yeah, and you want the all these colors here to be really bright. You want the shininess and the hardness. You want the brightness to be really big, and you also want the
You want a low fade distance so
want
that it
really
doesn't show
low
up in
fade
bigger
distance.
points.
Yeah, you basically want this. But let's go ahead and turn down the scale here, and then turn up the particle count. Let's do 150. How to do it? Maybe 300. And then we just
I
want
mean,
to
that little
compress
bit
it
that's
so
up.
it's very flat. And then last thing we need to do is fade far. Put that to like 0.
I wouldn't say 0, that's a bit too close.
Yeah, that is. It
Yeah,
just
I'd
doesn't
say like
work.
maybe
you want it to
5.
be visible only when you're like going through it.
Yep. And then the fade near needs to be below the fade far. Well, I mean, I guess it doesn't, but
Let's do 3 just in case. Okay, that's much too close. Let's actually do that.
I might actually turn the color of it down because if you think about it, when you're deep underwater, if you're moving through water, it's not going to be that bright. So, I mean, it'd still be like redder than the surrounding
It's not supposed
water.
to actually be bright. It's supposed to imitate like the foam, the splashy kind of foamy.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. So this is how it's supposed to look to the player here. You get through it and then, oop, that's
that's
another thing that
solid.
needs to change. It can't be solid.
It works
Solid
for the
plan
tubes,
here.
but not so great for the entrances.
Let's go ahead and change that. Disable collision. Make sure that's checked.
Yeah. One thing to also consider is just having this be a slightly different texture from the surrounding tube.
Yep, and then takes you out and into the ocean. And
Yep.
I might also mess with the gravity. Just turn up the drag
Yeah.
So I'd say 1.5 normal on both.
Doesn't
angles.
even need to be that much. You can probably get away with like 1.1 or 1.2.
Yeah, but you see when you go through there, which there's a splash.
Yeah.
That's what those textures are for. So this water audio zone needs to be both here and over here. So let's go ahead and paste the texture.
Make sure you
Disable
disable
collision. Make sure you disable collision, yes. And then
Oh, I have noticed a slight problem. Our scales may be too close.
I second that. I feel like that's a definite possibility.
I think that's still, yeah, that's still a bit too high up. There you go.
Go ahead and get rid of that.
You know what? A little underwater irregular texture, well, shapes never hurt anybody.
Definitely. Let's go ahead and I want to make sure I can get the
Shapes don't hurt anybody, but if you have too many of them, it can hurt a computer.
That is true.
Example, my junk ROM.
well,
No
we
comment.
here like to be mean to our computers.
Hey, I am very nice to my computer most of the time.
Computer
Except when I
abuse is a real
stack too many
problem.
I
formats
can hear the finger quotes
What
through
finger
your mic.
quotes?
Very nice to your computer most of the time.
I am. I don't know what you're talking about.
Sure, maybe your maps aren't performance heavy, but that doesn't mean.
Oh no, don't worry, they will be soon. On Pine's Twitch stream, if you get enough points on Twitch, you can make him make a map. And I think a third of the way there of being able to make him or choose a map, and I'm 100% choosing his Junker Swarm.
It's
Okay,
okay.
here's
I'll
what I'm gonna
optimize
do.
all.
Now
put a
when-
booster just before that.
When you're
of some
confused why I
sort
don't optimize
would
my
be
map,
nice.
I'll just say, try optimizing it yourself.
Okay.
Okay, so let's go ahead and change the water audio zone here. There just has to be one, otherwise it'll keep
Playing the splash.
it'll keep playing the splash. So what I'm gonna do here actually instead is I'm gonna attach this to an animator because that can better
yeah.
control when it triggers. So let's go ahead and move it down. Wait, actually, let's move it right here. Let's set the default action to play, and then set an event listener and set the on action to play reverse, and the off action to play. Event name, underwater sounds. Okay.
One other thing you want to do is change the motion type to advanced.
Delay 0, duration 0. And then this translate vector. I don't think for sliding that's actually necessary. We just need to get it far down enough that it's out of the way. Oop.
Yeah.
Problem solved.
The thing is that if things are not in the camera's view and they don't have always animate, they won't animate. Sometimes it still works, but it is always better to play it safe than sorry.
Audio event trigger, car screen image trigger. We want an event trigger. Let's get the event trigger box right here. What do I call this? This is underwater sounds. Underwater sounds. Alright, and I'm actually just going to time this for the time it takes. Time it to right here. So we've got, let's go ahead and hold action play. One action, play reverse, and off action play. I'm gonna pause this. Okay, what was I Play duration.
Your
Default action play, on action play reverse. So, event trigger. Let's actually just make this big and long. One here.
If you want to get like exact positions with your event trigger, you know how you can change the center point on the checkpoints? You can do the same with your event trigger boxes.
No kidding. Center point.
Yes, kidding. I was lying to you the whole time.
Oh, I felt that was too good to be true.
Okay.
Now I know it's a fact.
But if you leave the size as like 1 in the bottom section and just do like a center point of 0.5, it essentially lets you offset the whole box just to one side. It's really useful for exact stuff.
No kidding. So let's say I set the size to 50, right? And
Well,
I set the
you want
center
to leave
50.
You want to leave those sizes at 1, and then you adjust with the scale.
Oh, okay.
So, those ones up there. Yeah.
35. So right here. Like that.
Yeah, you would scale with those ones, and then just set the center point to like 0.5 on one of the axes, and then it'll just be like half, like you can kind of see that it's offset to that one side of the point.
That is very handy. Is this? 45. Nope, that's up. 5. There we go.
Yeah, that should be useful at the entrance there.
Okay, I'm gonna take the height down a bit. Wait, no. I'm gonna get a good cross-section view here. And align it just so. And that's good enough. Let's go ahead and put the car behind the booster if there's a booster. There's one right here. Car. Alright. Ah, perfect. I would want to adjust this jump though, so that it just kind of naturally puts the car right where it needs to be.
Make the landing a little bit more on the flat side and not as much pointing up.
Yeah.
That's what I'll recommend.
Here's what you can do actually. This is a pro gamer strat. Let's go ahead and restart this. Ooh, too many heap sections.
Too many heap sections. All right.
Whoops. All right. Luckily, we didn't lose too much progress here. All right. Here's my lead. Looks like I saved right before playtesting, which is a thing I think I've also gotten good at doing. Okay, and then I'm gonna put this right here.
One thing you gotta add is first you have capture splines, now you have save your map.
So you can map the trajectory of jumps by exiting playtest mode mid-explosion. See, right here? The explosion shows up in the level editor. So you've got a three-dimensional representation of the trajectory there. Go right about there. So this jump is a bit too large. That's what I think. So let's go ahead and grab a bunch of the splines here. So we've got the end.
Oh, I think we may have grabbed a little bit too much spline.
No, what it
right.
is
All the
it's
tube
grouped.
stuff is in
It's
the layer.
grouped. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's.
You got too much dip on your chip.
Let's go ahead and tubes. That's not in track, actually. Wow. It is in the default layer. Special tubes. I'm gonna put this there, and then I'm gonna go ahead and one. Because if we can't group them by group, then we can group them by layer.
True.
So let's put this one where it belongs. Put this one where that belongs. And then let's go ahead and ungroup. Oh, no, wait. I grouped it again.
Wonderful.
Alright, did it actually go in the correct group? Yes, it did. Excellent. So we can go ahead and freeze all that and then go back to, well, unfreeze all that and then go back to just working on everything. Okay, so let's go ahead and grab the ends right here. Ends right here. And then these ends right here. It looks like the checkpoint is attached to the track, so that's good. So I'm just going to go ahead and move this up like that, and then down. Oops. Right, nope. I turned off splines accidentally. Whoops. Okay. Okay. Let's go ahead and move that up. And then down.
Would even
the
consider
side
just
here?
like
Right there.
consider tilting it down a little bit too.
And then let's go ahead and yeah, tilt it down a little bit like this.
Yeah.
And now let's go ahead and give that a test. It's more aligned. See, it's like a catcher's mitt. It's right there.
Yeah. The only thing is that we gotta fix the water audio now.
This is more
But,
for
I mean, that's an
demonstration
easy
purposes
fix.
anyway. We don't have to actually release the level, so we can, as long
That
as
is
things have been
true.
shown, we can just move on.
Very true.
Okay, so let's go ahead and add a grab trigger here. So yeah, I'm only going to do that once, just for the sake of demonstration. We could probably cut out loading times by just pausing when we start and when we stop. That'd look pretty magical in post. Okay, and
Then people would get to see that, or it's called, when you play test a map and you exit it and it's a decent sized map, it's gonna not take like ages to get back in.
Yeah, exactly. That cuts out most of the time. Okay, so we've got just about I'd say this section's mostly done. Now let's move on to here. So
sand.
the above ground, let's take a look with fog toggled. We've got, I'm gonna put this in the background layer here. I'm gonna duplicate this. And then layer it, put it in the background. And then what was that one trick where you can you have to divide the position and the rotation by a certain amount in order to get them to lay over?
Yeah, you don't even have to divide them by a certain amount, I think. You can leave them the same. You just have to, what is it? There's a background scroll amount that needs to be adjusted, that's all.
And then let's go ahead and set the background to background here. So frozen.
That's probably be a biodome.
biodome here.
See, you have placed the water above.
I see I have as well. I misstepped somewhere along the line. Background, scale, 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 position, position, position.
Yeah. So you would just adjust the background scroll to it's either 100 or 1,000, I think, for that biodome.
Unfortunately, that only works with objects of a certain. Well, maybe. Let's go ahead and try it out. Yeah, past a
It might
certain
be
point, it just doesn't. It has to do with how far they're rendered out.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so you have to get within a certain distance of them, and then they'll be rendered in the background, but only up to a certain like depth away, and it all has to do with how far the Skyfire is set to. So we can't do anything like that without setting performance. So what I'm thinking is we set the scroll to a multiple of 1,000. Let's say 20, and then you toggle fog. You toggle fog here, and then let's get library object, and then 20 is a multiple of X amount of 1,000. So if the
That'll be 50.
yeah, so that'd be divided by 50. So we'll go ahead and move this down a little bit further. There we go. The only thing that's different is the yep. 17. Okay, this was at an acceptable level at one point. That's overlapping very much. Let's go ahead and turn fog on. Very good. That's almost perfect.
Yep.
Now it just overlaps in the background. So it's still there. Now all we have to do is mess with the texture scale. Make it even.
So multiply by 50 and that'll bring it back up to where it was.
And now, all that changes is the distance right there.
Yep.
Fortunately for us, though, you can still see the edges.
Yeah.
So we could solve that just by making the sky far a little bit. Well, fog. We need fog. For some reason, merge it with the background. Man, that is one thing that I had not been able to figure out until now. I'm probably going to refer back to this stream on multiple occasions just to figure out how I did that again.
Actually, if you go down to where where this group is real quick.
In the level object?
Yeah, just focus in on it with the camera real quick. I think if you ungroup it and just put it in that position, like put one of the shards in that position.
In what position?
Where it just was.
What?
Like wherever its old center point was. Yeah, so the snap cursor to there. Yeah.
Okay, so that's the center point of the group, yes.
Yep. Now ungroup it.
Mm-hmm.
Just take one of them and then just super scale it up.
Just like right,
Then,
like that.
yeah, and then just delete the extra ones because you don't need them anymore.
Very pog.
Yeah, and then you can just scale that one for the whole entire ocean instead.
Let's go ahead and yeah, just mess with the scale here. Get it to the max draw distance.
To get the horizon.
Excellent. It's at exactly the right level, and then I'm gonna mess with the color just a bit so it
Yeah,
matches.
bring it a little closer.
That's in the background. Most
Yep.
excellent. That's good enough for me.
Yeah, I think that does the job well enough.
It certainly does. Let's go ahead and undo the fog here.
Alright, let's figure out what's up with this sand texture. Because
Yeah, let's figure out what the deal is. So
it
this
looks like
is-
diffuse is disabled on it. I can tell that much.
What do we got here? Is this in the tubes?
That and most likely bump shrink is also probably disabled or incredibly low.
It has bump strength because there were shapes in the light.
But it's probably incredibly low.
Let's go ahead and move
Yeah.
this to... I'm going to make a new layer. And let's move this to the beach layer.
Does this level make use of any directional light at all?
Very little. Let's go ahead and use the level settings here for the main level settings. And let's actually turn up the directional light because there is directional light, but it is very low.
Yeah, even just a little bit of it will give that sand at least a little bit of bump.
Let's just, yeah, maybe we could just turn the intensity down, toggle that fog again. And let's use the same tricks right here as we did on that biodome. The sky fade distance, let's turn that up a little bit more. Well, not horribly much, but a little bit more. And then, I don't think we need any fog. The sky far, 2700, that's okay.
Yep.
Directional, so the ambient sky color.
Yeah, that's what's throwing it off. Your
That's-
ambient lights
Yeah,
are.
ambient lights needs to be, let's do this, let's do another 0.3 for that, and then 0.1 for this, and then good, nothing here.
Yeah, I think you somehow
This
met.
is much-
Yeah,
Okay, that's much better. So these
Ooh,
rocks
that-
aren't actually yellow. That's
yeah.
part of the problem.
Okay,
It's just the
That
lighting
ex-
that messes
that
with it.
explains so much.
Okay, let's go ahead and go back to these rocks, and I'm gonna go ahead and just send the big ones. So let's go ahead and grab this, copy here, paste here, and I'm gonna send this to the default layer. I'm gonna send this to the default layer. I'm gonna send this to the default layer. I'm gonna lock the default layer. And also
One quick
make it
thing.
not visible. So I can tell what's gone and what's not. So when I select all the rocks, I can know that it is 100% for sure all the right ones. Yep, except for the color. These are all...
I mean, they really just need a very slight shift to yellow, not even all the way up there.
Let's do right here, and then...
Yeah,
Let's say a tad bit more yellow, like the tiniest bit.
So if we want yellow, that's a mixture of red and green in equal parts. That is not matched by blue. So let's set the blue at 0.5 and the red at 0.7 and green at 0.7. That's a nice even shade right here. And then let's go ahead and we've already got world mapped,
If you want, I can pull up one of my maps that has a sand texture and I can just tell you the hex code of the
but I'm
sand
much
texture.
very like I'm okay with this. This is slight
I
enough
ju-
that it looks.
What I'll do is
legit.
I'll look at the texture and I'll see if it, like, how much different it is. If it's not that different, then I won't bother.
And this looks much more. Let's actually turn the bump strength up here to like at least 1. We've got much better lighting now.
Maybe
Yeah.
set the texture scale to 1.
I'll do 0.5.
yeah, because if you go up too high, you're gonna notice the tiling on it.
Yeah, you don't want that. Alright, and then next, places where it's bunched like this, we could just
Also, one thing I noticed in general with that area is it's not very smooth, and usually sandy areas are pretty smooth unless there's any rocks in the area.
splines are good for smoothing. But already that looks much nicer. You can see definition on it. It doesn't look like it was rendered in some really early like CGI.
Oh man, I I remember old CGI when I had like 3 polygons to my name.
Oh yeah.
Those were the days.
Those were the days. You can get rid of some of the seams by just merging them.
Yep.
Just moving them like along these lines until the seams just aren't quite as noticeable, and they blend in for the most part. Especially when you've got like good directional light. I think I'm gonna move the light actually, the longitude and the latitude, so that it's over here.
Yeah. As far as the
coming
cliff
from.
texture goes, that I feel like that doesn't quite fit the area now.
The texture.
Not the sand, the cliff.
Yeah, you're right. I know exactly what we should do.
Yep.
Just change the coloration.
Oh, I mean, there's also a really good texture for cliffs. If we just hop into the image index real quick.
I'm just gonna copy these colors and then paste them. Okay, what cliff image were you thinking of?
Just go to the image index real quick, and I believe it's the third from the right on the top row.
This guy?
Yep.
Yes. Very cliffy.
Yeah. And then another thing that can be done is just like add another little flattened cliff section up top, just to make it feel like there is something actually up there instead of it just being, well, all cliff.
Like that?
Yeah. And even better, you could just essentially take that same exact shape and squash it vertically and give it the sand texture so it looks like there's sand piled up on the ridges of the cliff. Although that's a very flat shape, so not sure how well that would work.
Little mapped.
Actually, wait a second. Just see the very last scale number? What if we just up that a little bit?
The what?
The very last scale number, it's still set to 1 for something this wide. If we just up that enough, it'll probably give the cliff a lot of shape.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and make this, it's 15. Definitely more shape.
Yeah, barely any considering how long this thing is. We might have to up it to like 50 even? I don't know.
It's actually...
Might be better instead of just doing one big rock to do a lot more smaller rocks, like not tiny rocks, but it might be a little bit more time consuming, but it gives it a lot nicer look.
There we go.
Yes.
There we go.
Yeah. I mean, my only concern now is whether it interferes with the tubes below, but that's something that could just be like shifted over. The tubes don't really seem to have much rhyme or reason to them.
Very good. All right. Last thing here was just going to be the ambiance, but I feel like that's most... Oh, wow. I have a problem with this. This is what we're doing now. This is what we're going to do right now. And it's in tubes, of course it is. So this cheese GS, first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to center this right here, I'm going to center this right here, and I'm going to get rid of all its rotation. I'm going to make this a 90. Nope. Negative 90. Nope.
Yep, 270.
And then I'm going to move it about that amount of distance away. And I'm going to do that again. Move it that amount of distance away.
You are off center a little bit. Yeah, there you go.
Perfect. And then I'm going to take these and I'm going to duplicate them. And then I'm going to change the rotation here to, nope.
We gotta group them.
I'm going to group them.
Do what? Yeah.
I'm going to change the rotation here. Group these. And I'm going to group this. I'm going to change the rotation to 45.
Oops. Well, just do plus 45.
Group it again.
Oh, that works too.
Yep. Plus 45. And I'm going to replace these.
That is an understandable decision.
Yes. Oops. Cheese. This is very cheesy. I'm gonna group everything at the base layer. And then I'm gonna also...
Wait a minute, is the road... Either
It is-
the
it is
road's not
not-
centered on the spire, or
it
the
is not
spire's not
centered.
centered on the road.
It's fine. We can change the centering because I know this for a fact this is perfectly spherical.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay. And then obviously we center that. Okay. And now let's take another look at this right here.
Yeah. Actually, the water texture on that pond probably needs to get adjusted now.
Definitely. It needs to be... Let's just go ahead and grab this.
Yeah. Actually, the pond water would be the perfect spot for a bit of transparency.
Let's do additive transparency, and then we're gonna have to turn up bump like
Yeah.
a lot, and also turn
Now
up the reflect
also
color.
turn up. Yeah.
There we go.
And boom, it already feels much...
This feels like actual water now.
Yeah.
I'd recommend something else you could do to make it look slightly better.
You know what's even
Is
cooler?
to make. You could probably do multiplicative. I can't speak English, but not the additive, the multiplicative. Like I said, I can't speak. I'm not good at English. But that one might make it a little bit more murky water.
All
Yeah.
I'm gonna do
I see what you're going for already.
is just do the fog. That's it.
Yep.
And then
We're not gonna question how I can't say that word
Fog.
because
top.
I'm bad at English.
No, why would we question that? You're bad at English. That's a given.
True.
5. Let's do that here.
Yeah, Chiro's doing the like a level of the month. And you get 3 words, and I remember Pines put in the Discord channel. I'm just like, what those mean?
Yeah,
What are
and
words?
then Kinnick told you to Google it, and then you Googled all 3 words at once instead of the separate words, and that just hurt me so much.
It makes no sense. English is my first language, but I'm somehow better at French. It makes 0 clue.
Makes zero clue. Alright, the fog top should be right there. And so we've got a nice bit of fog. Let's turn the density up. Let's actually make this
I wouldn't go that extreme blue, but yeah.
and then fog near. Fog near. Let's do 15. Fog far. Let's do 50 actually. Let's actually do a little bit more than 50. Let's do 150. Nope. Let's do third.
I'll also make the fog a little bit less, like, make it so you can actually see through it. So it gives it, like, yeah, like that.
See, that's
And maybe-
the perfect amount of murkiness and no particles. It's all done.
I would recommend also
You
making the
just
water
set
texture
the
a
you
little
just
bit
set
more
the fog
to
top right here. You just set this fog
make it a
top
little bit.
to
I would
exactly
recommend
the Y
personally-
value of whatever plane you're using. So then it hits the top and then it stops.
I was gonna say though, one thing you can do
There's a
is
little
also
murkiness there.
make the color of the fog a little bit closer to the color of the sand, like a tiniest bit, just to give it that murkiness from the sand being so close.
That is, yeah, that's a good point.
Okay.
So bring it a little bit closer to white, I guess.
Let's do, yep, right there.
Yeah.
Here we go. That's good.
Fog
Okay,
is-
and then as far as these track issues, save and level. Okay, you do not need this many splines. You
Yeah.
simply do not. All right, let's go ahead and I hope this is in. Yep, it's in track. Whew. It just happens to be in tubes like everything else. So what we need here is just this part, basically. So if we group this and this and this, you get nicer, smoother, longer splines. The more subsections you have, the less smooth your track will be.
Yeah.
Case in point.
There is a point where you will want to like subdivide your tracks more, but that's only if you have ridiculously long splines, because distance is not like calculating those.
Yes. And if you feel like your road is moving to the side a little bit, then you just use the rotate gizmo and just smooth it out. Like these long noodles. I feel like we've gone over just about everything that I saw. It's much nicer ambience-wise, like better checkpoints. Of course, this whole section, I think I'd probably just get rid of, honestly. Just have it be a warp anchor that takes you from one end to the other.
Yeah. I mean, what's it look like under there anyway? Oh, I see.
Yep.
That is a lot of tube.
Yep, that is so much pipe. Let's go ahead and yeah, I think the last thing we're going to do here is it's in tubes, of course. Nope. It's in beach. That'll save on performance.
I swear somebody could just like make an entire video on how to upgrade performance in a level.
Track. Oh, no, this is track, not tubes. There is so
How to upgrade your performance in a map? Just make no map.
easy.
I mean, that is one way of doing it.
Just don't launch the game.
Better yet, don't
Computer
buy the game.
performance will thank you. No, buy the game, but don't launch it.
Better yet, just don't buy a computer.
Okay, so as far as warp anchors go, what you want is to duplicate. If you want a seamless transition, let's say you want to get from here all the way over there, you want to duplicate this entire section, and you want to keep the rotation and orientation. Let's just move that over here and then down, right? Actually, let's not duplicate it quite yet. Let's get this looking like how we want it to look. Let's go ahead and turn off center points here, and then let's get rid of this. Let's say, yeah, let's just have it look like this. Very good. And so we're gonna merge these, and then I'm gonna put a warp anchor right here. Right there. And you want to remember exactly where the warp anchor is, what direction it's facing, etc. Because this entire layout, you basically want to group the entrance and exit object. And if you don't want it to have any sort of effects, you just basically uncheck every single box here. And set everything to default. And trigger checkpoint if you want it to do that. And then one way. Okay, so let's do my ID of 50, other ID of 51. And then we're just gonna, so this is 3 objects, and then we're just basically we're gonna group this, warp 1. And then we're gonna duplicate this all the way over here. Get rid of these.
I mean, it's still fine to have like a little bit of the pipe gameplay just for a second.
You can keep that, yeah, but just for the sake of brevity. So this is warp 2, and then inspect children, we do all, and then let's go ahead and uncheck is primary, set my ID to 51, other ID to 50, and now we've got a functional warp anchor.
Yep.
And so we just take that and join it. And we've successfully done the warp anchoring.
We have done a warp anchor surgery.
Yep. One thing you have to be careful of, though, is that you have to make sure that the ambient light on one side is the same as the ambient light on the other, because if it changes mid-warp, then it's going to be like, whoa, you changed the lighting. Okay, so let's do cap. What is this? This is an Empire pipe tunnel.
That would be in roads under tunnels.
Roads, tunnels, gotcha.
Yeah, no idea if it has an actual cap, but...
Oh, whatever. Let's... Going off of the assumption that it doesn't, let's just use a ring and copy the rotation of here. And now we've got it going out straight, and then let's go ahead and rotate it 90 degrees here, and then copy this texture here. We just want it to be Empire. Empire 1. There we go. Bam. Nice and capped, even though it doesn't have an official cap.
We'll just make sure it doesn't like lip into the tunnel at all.
It doesn't too much.
Okay.
But if you wanted to get rid of it entirely, you just do that.
Yeah, just so that nobody bounces off of it.
Yes.
Just a good practice to get in the habit of.
Yes. Let's go ahead and default level editor car spawner. And let's test out this warp anchor right here. Okay. And then I would also realign this tunnel so that it fits better, and use a spline thing.
If you want to, you can make it so the sand's slightly on the edge and use particles to make it look like sand's falling in.
If you pay attention, you can see the screen glitch slightly.
Yeah.
And that's the warp anchor doing its thing. And then now, bada bing, bada boom, all of a sudden you're all the way on the other side of the map. That's about how long that whole transition should be. Because there's this little tunnel section where it's just like, okay, get ready for the new thing. Yep. And then I would set up the particles here so that it looks like you're splashing into the water. Same way I did it the other way, just give it more depth.
Yep.
And I would also turn the track around some of those back parts because it's entirely backwards. And that, I think, is about it. Can you think of anything else?
Nothing major.
Okay.
A lot of it just comes down to adjusting the track to play how you want it to.
Yeah, just messing with the flow a little bit to make it feel better. I would just add like boost pads on the entire track.
Another thing also is mainly just to take your time, because no matter how good you are, it's going to be really hard to make a map, like a good map, in a short amount of time that's, a decent size. I mean, obviously you can be crazy like Pines and make a map in one day, but even then, you can only make such a big map.
That's good advice. Just be
but the other thing
like
is,
Pines.
even if Pines, when he makes a map in one day, he isn't making like a full giant map. He's just making a decent sized map.
All right, let's test out the track flow here with a grab trigger.
If you want to make a regular realms map, it's going to take a decent amount of time to work on.
Let's go ahead and not disable dragging, not make this a one-time trigger, not stop previous music, but let's go ahead and put the drag scale at 0.5.
Yeah, I mean, realms are probably one of the things I spend the most time on when it comes to map making.
There we go. So you
that
retain
is
that
speedy.
speed.
Oh, that is too speedy.
So it feels much faster.
Yeah.
Much faster, and when you get going for boost, of course you could fine-tune this depending on how fast you want the player to go, but oh yeah, the track feels much better when you've got a higher speed threshold, because it doesn't feel like you're forced to spend time crawling through the track.
Not only that, it makes the what were once very wide slow turns feel much faster.
Yeah, and much snappier, while not actually changing the track width at all. And it also highlights issues with flow, because like parts of the track where you drop a level, or where you have to compensate or correct, you want to get rid of those. Like
Honestly,
parts.
I really like those. They have a really nice feel to them. Um, at least when you have time to like land those drops.
Well, if they're built into the track and not just the result of tracks being placed wherever they want to be placed, then yeah, that does make sense. But stuff like this, where just boosting on the track just throws you right off of it, I
Yeah.
feel like that messes with the flow a little bit. Like for example, this turn, this is a little bit sharper than I probably would like. Just get more kind of grooves to the turn. You want the track to complement and accentuate the speed of the car, so that when you find yourself going at warp speed. Oh yeah, I would get rid of these lightning spawners. When you find yourself going at warp speed, the track twists and turns under you. You can mostly stay on it effortlessly, and the challenge comes from jumps and transfers, and not from just like not flying off the track.
Yep.
All right. I think that's probably where I'm gonna leave it.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Oh, yep. That
Oh,
the game felt the same.
well, I guess it doesn't get much better than that.
Right, well, I was just gonna leave off right here, and then I guess we'll see everybody next week, next Friday. Ta ta.